Welcome to Tamer Bowling Video Ball Reviews. Hey Tamer Bowling fans, we are now on Patreon. For exclusive content, please join us at patreon.com/tamerbowling. Today we are testing the new Track Tactix. We're testing on a 40-foot medium house shot and the 45-foot PBA Dragon sport shot. First impressions of the Track Tactix, it feels like much more ball than the slot it fills in the upper mid-performance line for track, boatloads of mid-lane, and rolls real heavy. For value, we gave it a B+. The Track Tactix is upper mid-tier pricing, plus its heavy rolling characteristics gives it a pretty strong bang for the buck. Overall, we gave the Tactix a B- on house shot and an A on sport shot. From the first roll, the Track Tactix looks like a special piece. I have to admit to being a bit biased to the electric blue color, but I digress. Track returns the QR9 cover stock from the Paradox, but in solid form. And that ball was pretty successful in its own right. It definitely creates traction. Shape-wise, the new Starship is fantastic, to be honest. I tested the ball before I read any of Track's notes about ball intent. Then I realized what I'm thinking I'm about to write is just about identical to what they said. They say heavy mid-lane roll, I say absolutely. This was earlier than any other ball we had on hand. They talk about the mild asymmetry, which allows the ball to maintain energy off the spot, check. Then they talk about a big continuous shape down lane. I can't argue with that. I did see all of that. All of us thought this is supposed to be mid-range. It's not the easiest ball to get down lane on a medium house shot, especially as EBI balls generally eat up oil pretty fast when they're fresh. You just have to be nice to it as the ball does tons of work. It's very mid-laney, so while it can be swung left to right a decent amount, it can definitely run out of steam if you ask it to hockey stick back to the pocket. But I could get into the oil and get deep or lay off with a suitcase hand position. The last few shots were with the weaker hand position, and you could see the energy transfer to the pins. The pins noticeably slapped around. Shawn was up next, and despite it being a very strong, solid covered asim, he liked it. He could use the rolling nature of the ball to get that chugging mid lane and hard drive. On that less steep trajectory, the ball just really explodes through the pins. It's like a full release of energy at the perfect time. If he swings it a bit more, it deflects more because it just isn't a snappy back-end reaction. However, again, it did slap the pins around and carried pretty well. He really didn't have to hit the ball to roll, just like I shouldn't have. The ball preferred not to be overwhelmed, especially on this pattern, as it really does the business on its own. Bryan was next, and he has to be closer to the friction line to get the back-end reaction. He could play close to there with the Tactix or for a short time, but the line quickly burns up as this ball and in the Columbia 300 Savage we tested have very strong covers. When he gets in, the ball doesn't have enough back-end move to cover the boards and or carry well for that matter. He has to parallel target and break point in, but that makes it tricky and unnecessarily complex for the house shot. For this to work, some lane shine would allow this ball to play longer in his track area while still having enough energy down lane. Our sport pattern is the 45-foot PBA Dragon, and honestly, this ball made the 45-foot pattern feel like 35 feet. The ball never felt like it would blow through the break point. It was actually even too strong for this pattern for me. But that shape, this ball looks like a potential sport shot superstar. For Shawn, the ball was easier to get to the pocket and carry. Just get it to the head pin, the ball will do the work. It's, again, rolly, lays off without feeling like it's going to blow through the break point. He knew what he was seeing right away. For Bryan, he also was able to take advantage of that heavy early roll to drive nicely. Here's where the strong surface, strong roll, and more active back ends on sport shots blend to give Bryan a really good look with the Tactix. Final thoughts. The Track Tactix looks like a great offering. It looks to be a really good piece for the money, and if you're thinking about how this compares to some other stuff out on the market, to me, this ball sits right in between the Rotogrip Halo and Idol. Why mention those? Well, there's a lot of hype surrounding those really good pieces, and they come right to mind when I throw the Tactix. This one has that rolly nature those balls have, but less hook set than the Halo and more down lane motion than the Idol. It's kind of like if you're thinking Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the Tactix is just right. The Sport Shot especially shows you how heavy rolling this ball is. And for motive fans, this ball's like Venom Shock Rolly, but with stronger backend. Really, the Tactix looks like a keeper. I'd be surprised if we don't see this being used frequently on tour.
I need to tell you the one Tamer Bowling Ball reviews.